I would like to call this Apache Junction Water District meeting of January 21st, 2025 to order and request that all cell phones be put on silent. And I apologize for our late arrival. Had an interesting discussion in exec session. Roll call.
Chairperson Wilson.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Schroeder.
Present.
Board Member Cross.
Here.
Board Member Heck.
Here.
Board Member Johnson.
Here.
Board Member Nesser.
Present.
Board Member Suller.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do I have an approval of minutes for the November 19th, 2024 meeting?
Chair,
Yes.
I move that the minutes of the meeting of November 19th, 2024 be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Board Member Suller.
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Schroeder.
Yes.
Board Member Nesser.
Yes.
Board Member Cross.
Yes.
Board Member Heck.
Yes.
Board Member Johnson.
Yes.
Chairperson Wilson.
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
District Manager's report.
No report, Your Honor.
Okay. District Director's report. Mike.
Chairman Wilson and members of the board, got a quick presentation for you tonight. We had some backwash tanks that were in the process of recoating. So these tanks are for our arsenic treatment facility that we have at our well 6 on Baseline, and also at our surface water plant on Ironwood. Roughly, the one at Baseline for well 6 is 20 years old. So what happens is we add a chemical to our water, it filters out some of the other constituents in there, and we backwash this out to remove arsenic basically in this. This water sits in there, and we take the nice clean water off the top, and we build up a sludge in the bottom. Well, over time, it wears out our coating on that tank, so we have to recoat the tank and replace it. So in this case, we had a beam replacement, and then we replaced this coating that was over 20 years old for roughly around $70,000. Then at our surface water plant, we also have a backwash tank there. We're in the process of an expansion. They had to get in there to change some things, so we'll be doing some welding and adding some new holes to the tank. So while we were in there, we took advantage of it, and then we're going to recoat the inside of that entire tank and outside while we were doing this. Typically, these coatings last between 7 to 10 years. We got a little bit more out of the one at Baseline because it was a powder coat rather than a coating that we sprayed on there in the past. Do we have any questions on these?
Any questions? Nope.
Then a little update. I gave you guys a little presentation at our last meeting back in December about our SRP CAP interconnect facility. We had a meeting last week. We had some big news. Commissioner Tootin and Salt River Projects General Manager Jim Pratt and also CAP's board president Terry Goddard was there. They made an announcement that the Bureau of Reclamation is going to be funding $154 million of that project. That's part of that. So good news. Now we got to work out that. There is some, it's called Bucket 2 funding for water supplies. That's for water conservation. Possibly we may use some of our credits that we have to pay for this rather than actual money. We'll be working through that process. Since this announcement came out, we haven't even talked to SRP to see how this affects the overall budget of that project, but we're going to be working through that with them. But it's good news they're at least paying for a portion of it at this point in time. Okay.
Okay.
And then I guess we're having some questions here tonight about our water availability and firefighting protection here, preparedness here in Apache Junction. We do have Chief Whitney here and Andy Haas from Arizona Water Company. I'm just going to give you guys some brief overhaul of where we're at in the water world and some things to think about, and you can ask fire questions and Arizona water questions here in a little bit. So just some water system design 101. We plan for systems on average day demands. What does an average person use each day? We multiply that number of homes, number of people living in there to figure out how much they're going to use. Then we go to peak day demands. So in the summertime when you irrigate your lawn, or when it's high demands in the summertime as you're washing your cars or you're taking longer showers, different things happen. We got to plan for those max day demands. And then those peak hour demands. So when people get up in the morning, everybody tends to get up between 6 and 8 o'clock. They take their showers, get on the road, and begin at 5, 6 o'clock at night. Peak hour demands happen again. And then you also got to add fire flows into there. So how much production do you need for fire flows, and how much storage do you need just in case a fire happens? Okay. So then you take those numbers we all put together, this 1,500-page book that we won't bore you with here. But based on that, you can either choose max day demands plus your fire flows, or typically your peak hour demands is what really calculates your storage requirements for new development or for your city or different things that are out there, okay? So what does fire flow really mean? As part of this is the big deal, what's happening in California. The average fire flow for fire code here is in residential development, 1,500 gallons a minute for 2 hours, 180,000 gallons of water. That's what you need. For a commercial or industrial park, you know, you're looking at our school, 4,000 gallons a minute for 4 hours, so almost 1 million gallons of water just for that school to protect it. That is what you're planning for. So now we got to build these tanks so that we make sure that that 1 million gallons of storage is there, even when you have your peak demands or your peak hour demands, so that you still have water to serve your customers and you can still fight fires with that. Okay. Any questions on that so far?
Don't see any.
Okay. A little bit about our system. With the new development to the south, we roughly have 7.2 million gallons of storage. We have 4 million gallons a day at our surface water treatment plant that we can produce. We also have 2 million gallons in water, our wells that we can produce each day. And we have an interconnect with the city of Mesa for emergencies, just in case some failures happen, or an emergency like we're talking about here, a fire happens or something like that. We also have an interconnect with Arizona Water Company. So we're trying to provide a resilient source of water for all areas, either city of Mesa, we can serve back to them, or Arizona Water Company, go either way as part of that. Okay. They have much more storage. Andy could talk about that if you guys want to get into that in a little bit, but I just want to give you kind of a background where the water district is. They serve about the same size amount in the city, but they also serve in Gold Canyon and in the county islands also. So they have much more storage than we do currently.
I had a question. More of a statement. I'm glad to hear that we have the two different interconnects. And are they automatically opened or controlled, or are they manually controlled? So when a demand occurs, we have to send somebody over to open a valve to create that interconnection.
Currently, our interconnect with Arizona Water Company is manual. We do have one that is in the process of another emergency interconnect with them that will be automatic. In the city of Mesa, it's just a push of a button to open the valves and turn it on. So,
Okay.
And that's always happening with all of our monitoring that we have going on out there. Okay. So there's a couple things you've probably seen on the news. Typically in the wintertime is when you take down these storage tanks. If you have a couple, you're not served always by one, and you take them out of service so that you can clean them up, do coatings as we discussed earlier. So they're out of service. Those are the best times to do it. When your demand is low in the wintertime, it's cool, nobody's using as much water. So this is why we do something like that. Well maintenance. Typically you take them out again in the wintertime because your production, you don't need it at that point in time. You have those because the weather's cooler and people use less water, less swamp coolers going, different things that are happening out there. Apache Junction is a little bit different here because ours kind of stay flat because all the snowbirds come in town, so we pick up a little bit, but still those are a little bit lower demand, so those are our best times to do maintenance on our storage facilities. Again, most people don't plan on a fire happening in the middle of that, so unfortunately that's what happened in California right now. Okay. So as part of this, currently, with our storage we have, if you use those fire flows for homes, we could have saved 80 homes, basically. 8 homes could have been on fire for that day, and we could have saved those, or only 14 commercial buildings. Unfortunately, when fires happen, even in California, even up north in the mountains, when the fires happen up there, people grab their hoses because they're going to put out the fire with their hose in their house, and they're out there spraying them down. So not only do you have now fire flow going on, now you're doing peak hour flows and peak max day flows because everybody's out there spraying it down. And then they think, well, if I leave it running, I'll put out anything that falls around my house, so I'll just leave it running and I'm going to leave because I'm going to protect my life at that point in time. So you add all these things on top of each other, and this is why they had some issues over there in California with the fire protection and what was going on. Sure. So I'm going to step back there for a second. I don't know if Andy Haas wants to come up and say things, or you guys have some questions for them, or Chief Whitney, if you want to step up.
Your Honor, I just wanted to make a comment. As we have our guests come, we place this item on because this is a discussion in our community that's being had all over the place. And so wanted to get as quickly as we can at our next meeting opportunity, if you had any questions, to our fire chief and or Arizona Water and Mike at Apache Junction Water, because that is the system that works together to deal with these emergencies. And so we did kind of want to open it up and have questions and answer session. of things you're hearing out there. So they're really ready to answer questions. Not so much a presentation because it really was just last week when this was going on.
Right.
I have a question. You know, we see, you know, how much it takes for a commercial building. You know, we've been putting up more and more of the like townhouses and things of this nature that are a combined multi-tenant. So we should be thinking of those as things that would be like the $1 million fire, things like a commercial fire.
Correct. So that would be commercial businesses or multifamily. Part of the fire code, there's different flow requirements. If you use wood versus block, I gave you kind of in general where we're at. But yes, we have to look at all that when we're building. As we build more of these multifamily homes, they're closer together, higher fire protection for that is according to the code. So, yes.
Because I have no knowledge on how to fight a fire or how much water it takes, okay? So I'm gonna ask a real novice question. When we, as a city, approve things that are kind of close together on these multiple dwellings, do we have enough water and flow in the pipes that are going to these hydrants to be able to deal with those bigger multi-homes that we've been putting up?
I'll let Chief explain that one, but on the water side, yes.
I figure you have the water, I'm just not sure about the flow.
I'm thinking yes and no.
And just to clarify, when you mean flow, we're talking about
How much pressure are you
many
gonna
gallons?
have?
That was the word I
Because that
wanted,
was
water
part of what they had problems with in California, was you could get some water, but not enough. And when we put something right here and something right here, and they're big multis, or we put in a big plan, are we verifying that there's enough water pressure that's going to put out a fire in a close-knit, stacked community?
Let me answer that one. So,
My,
yes. So what happens, and this is part that we have to work with the fire department. I believe it's every 5 years you guys got to do an ISO survey. So they go out. Part of that is they have to have certain components on their fire trucks. But the also portion of it is all the fire hydrants within our district, within Arizona Water Company. We have to give them fire flow results from each fire hydrant so they know how much water they can receive from each one of those. So we'll go around and make sure, and all of our fire hydrants in our service area, I can speak for, are over 1,500 gallons a minute, so we can meet all those residential flows. Some of those areas that are newer, they will have to backbuild our system. That's what some of our system connection fees are for. If we have to build a multifamily that takes 2,000 gallons a minute or 3,000 gallons a minute, if we have to build bigger booster pump station as part of that, they will have to fund that as part of their development to provide that fire protection to them so we can keep building as we go.
That's pretty much what I wanted to know, because, you know, just because a hydrant is there and then we put up, you know, 272 homes in this three block area, you know, it's a concern because I'm still looking at the same hydrant.
Yeah, roughly all of our fire hydrants are roughly about 600 feet apart is our requirements that we have here in the city. Some are closer, depending upon how close they are to different facilities. And hydrant, you know, we can say it needs 4,000 gallons a minute, but if you turned on one hydrant, probably the maximum that you could get out of a hydrant is probably about 3,000 gallons a minute, no matter how much pressure you have. That's just through that 4-inch nozzle. Then you have to get a second hydrant that's 600 feet away. So that's why we keep them that they have enough hose on their trucks to reach out to those different hydrants to provide some of that protection, or they have to add some different sprinkler systems within inside buildings to protect those facilities.
I appreciate that, because when we're getting plans, have not really been looking to see how many hydrants are near them.
well,
Thank you again, Andy Haas with Arizona Water. Just want to add to that a little bit because I'm, excuse me, highly involved on the development side with those new developments coming in. And, you know, both the Water District and Arizona Water Company, when those new developments come in, whether it's single family, commercial, industrial, whatever it might be, we always start with them with a water report and a hydraulic water model to understand what are their water demands, everything that Mike described up there, their max day demands, the fire flow requirements, partner with the fire district, the fire department on, based on the building construction, what are those fire flow requirements. We make sure that the water system, either as is or with improvements, can provide those flows, those requirements. And if our system doesn't provide those flows, we work with the developer to be able to to construct that additional infrastructure. Could be, as Mike said, could be additional water mains, larger diameter mains, storage tanks, booster pump station capacities. We have, Arizona Water's partnered with the city and a couple developers in the downtown area to do a little master plan in that area, looking at sizing all those water mains appropriately to make sure we have adequate fire flows for the proposed usages there. So that's in my opinion, that's key, is making sure you have that analysis done and the understanding and buy-in from everyone before you start building.
I really appreciate that. Like I said, it's not my forte, so I figured since the experts were in the room, I figured I'd get some education. Thank you.
Ryan?
Fire Chief? Yes. First, thank you
Yeah.
for coming. Appreciate it. And again, we're not firefighters. There's only one of us up here, I think, it actually works in fire
Knows anything about
stuff.
what?
I would like to know, are you comfortable with where we are at as a city of AJ with our fire protection? Because I know we can have wildfires come in here too, and you guys have done a great job of getting out there and knocking them down very quickly. Are you comfortable where we're at, and what do you think we need to do to ensure we never end up like California, where we're having things burn and we can't deal with it?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, members of council, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's one of those things that's a tricky answer because depending on a variety of scenarios, any situation can end up as catastrophic as it did in California. I am from an average day-to-day, everything we typically do, I am comfortable with the systems that we have set up. We have a lot of redundancies built into our systems. We have the ability with our relationships to, if we got to a point where we needed pressure bumps, things like that, we can work with the water department to achieve that. We have ability to pump hydrants to increase pressure. We have, as this gentleman stated, we bring in multiple hydrants depending on the size of the fire. We always have a secondary hydrant just in case. We have water tenders in areas that aren't served by hydrants or if we had failures there. Wildfires are, the California situation is really a complex from all the different scenarios that I'm sure you're aware. Wildfires are typically not as water dependent as structural fires are. The issue in California is because so many structures were caught on fire because of the wildfire, that's where they really came into those water demand issues. I would say as far as what the City of Apache Junction, what the Community Fire District can do, is to continue to take the proactive steps that we are doing currently. We have a lot of conversations with different homeowners associations, different community members talking about wildfire preparedness, making sure that you have cleared space around your home, making sure that you don't have potential fuel sources that can access. All of the things that we talk about, we go out and advise on fire-wise communities, et cetera. All of those pieces set us up to have success, given your kind of standard common issues or practices that we run into here. We don't have the same weather as California. We don't have the same topography. We don't have the same fuel model. There's a lot of different nuances. I will tell you, if we had the steep terrain, the fuel model that they have, and 100-mile-an-hour winds, I don't know that any community can honestly withstand that. At the end of the day, we talked about these systems are designed to be pulled off here or there from a hydrant. When you're pulling those off, have incidents over numerous locations with the people running the fire hose or running their garden hoses. When a building burns down and the water mains just open, all of those things impact supply issues. So yes, where we are now, I think we're doing all of the things that we should be doing, but I also say that with a caveat of any community would struggle to meet the demands that they ran into.
Thank you.
Chief?
Yes.
In the rural part of our community, it seems like fire hydrants are fewer and farther between. You know, the closest one to my house feels like it's almost a quarter mile.
Yeah,
That's a long ways.
it's a long ways.
And, you know, in the California situation, how many mains did they collapse trying to draw water from hydrants with, 20 pumper trucks sucking at the same time?
Yeah.
You know, that's always a very dangerous or very, bad issue that can happen with your underground, with your supply. Do you feel that could ever happen here in AJ? I would think not in our part, or at least in the rural part, because the hydrants are so far apart. But in my opinion, I would think that it would be better if we could have more hydrants a little closer spaced, so we're not laying a quarter mile of hose down a street and having firemen, connect hoses quick. I know they do an extraordinarily good job, but seconds count.
Yes,
Before
absolutely.
something goes, to when it flashes over, it's now you're just playing, keep it from spreading type scenario instead of actually taking the fire out.
Absolutely, and that's where a lot of our standard operating guidelines are established to address scenarios like that, whether that's running off tank water for that first initial attack response. We set up tender shuttles, and our crews know in certain areas they automatically take water tenders with them. One part of our ISO rating was being able to successfully set up a continuous water supply through a tender shuttle. It's where we set up a portable tank, the crews draft out of that tank, and then a tender shuttle, they just keep running and dumping water into that tank for areas that don't have hydrants, or if it's so far away. So we can satisfy those. As far as pulling off of too many hydrants and having that impact of what that demand likes, I would have to default to this gentleman here to speak like that, because I'm kind of my water supply comes out of the hydrant. What happens before then is all him right there. So,
Well, one of a perfect example is like the Elks Lodge. The closest hydrant to that, and if I remember correctly, would be either at Idaho and Lost Dutchman, or Cortez and Teepee.
Yes,
That's a long ways.
that's a long ways.
And we did have a
And it
brush
would-
fire there.
Yep.
It would really be, I would love to see us trying to find some grants and whatnot to add some more hydrants
Yeah.
in key areas.
We are
within our
all
community.
for it. We know that from an economic development factor, the costs associated with that in new communities is problematic at times. We'll take as many hydrants as you all want to put in here. It makes things a lot easier. It's just balancing the economic factors, which we understand. That's why we adapt to those scenarios. You take the Elks Lodge, for example, that would be an automatic tender response. We carry a lot of hose. Because in this community, that is in a lot of communities. I used to work for the city of Scottsdale. There were areas in the city of Scottsdale where you had to make sure that you had plenty of hose and tender shuttles as well. So it's kind of a known in our industry that sometimes you just have those areas. Yes, absolutely. A hydrant across the street from every burning house would be amazing. We just know sometimes that's not always a possibility.
Yeah, I realize that, but
Yeah,
at the same
and I know that's not what you're mentioning, but it's the more the better for us. We
you want
always
one within 150 feet of any commercial building,
That would be-
especially
yeah.
and obviously it's mandatory if it has a fire system,
Yeah.
sprinkler system in it. But, I see those vulnerable locations on a regular basis, and it's like, God, I wish we could get some more hydrants out here.
Yeah.
And also boost the pressure, because I know the pressure going northbound on Cortez just drops like a rock.
Yeah.
So
Yes, currently at
your house
below
must
2.
suck.
If you don't have you don't put in a personal pump, you can't even get above 2. So, I mean, that's an issue. And there was the brush fire, when you don't have a hydrant and it's near commercial buildings and it's on the edge of nothing but burnable material. The fire got all the way to the intersection of Lost Dutchman and 88. I know because my house was 2 doors away and I was on set mode.
Oh, yeah.
And the water in our area comes downhill at a gravity feed. So there's not much out there. And that's a prime area. We've had several wildfires out in that area.
Well, it's
So,
just primed to burn bad in that Weeks Wash watershed. And it's a ticking time bomb with the amount of fuel load that's in the underbrush right now.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Chief Whitney,
Yes, sir.
just some questions. You come under the International Fire Code, is that correct?
Yes.
And there's provisions in there that require testing on fire hydrants, is that correct?
Yes.
And also for pressure, is that correct?
Yeah, is there pressure tests on the annual inspections? Okay.
Okay, so it's tested all your fire hydrants throughout the city are tested that way, and reports are then made to the state, is that correct? The fire marshal?
I brought my fire marshal with
go
me.
to the fire
in case
marshal.
of questions
Fire
like
marshal,
this.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
Rich, you want to come up? Yeah, I don't believe we don't report to the state.
It just goes to the age.
and the fact that there are 2 water suppliers, that does not concern you in the least, correct? You have 2 water suppliers, so it really doesn't matter who's supplying water.
No, for us, at the end of the day, I said it tongue in cheek jokingly, but if we go there and the hydrants have water in them, we don't, where it comes from is not really necessarily a problem for us. It just gives us the opportunity, we identify whose water it is, so we can reach out if we have to. If we had a large-scale commercial fire or anything like that, and we had to request to try to get pressures boosted, I only ever seen that one time done in my career, but it is a possibility. We need to know who to access. And fortunately, it's not like we have a bunch of different ones. It doesn't necessarily bother us from our vantage point.
And if during the testing, there's a pressure issue, what kind of operations are done to correct the pressure?
We would reach out to whichever jurisdiction had maintenance of that hydrant. If we run into a pressure issue at an incident, we have the ability to pump hydrants where we connect another truck to the hydrant. So there's a truck getting a supply and then another truck pumps it to pressurize that water. And as long as we have an adequate amount of volume, we can satisfy the pressure issue.
Okay, I just wanted to make some of those things clear for the city council and also the viewing public.
Mayor,
Thank you.
Yes.
Chief, do me a favor,
Yes,
go back and tell all your employees that the city of Apache Junction Council and residents really appreciate the professionalism and the job they do to protect our city. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, sir. I truly appreciate it. It's our honor.
Any other questions?
Arizona Water, want to say anything more?
I don't know enough to ask questions.
Any other questions?
So I guess my last slide is kind of give you guys an idea of what California was facing over there, so you kind of get a bigger picture. This was a quick, article I got out of the paper. You see 80-mile-an-hour winds, that helps fuel the fire, but you don't realize all those tankers and all those helicopters that you could use during that are now grounded too because all your airports cannot fly. So you lose that other extra protection and extra piece of that as part of that whole business. So then now you're just relying on those fire or the water systems supply all those demands rather than all the tools that you have access to. So created a difficult situation, over 15,000 structures. That's almost every house in Apache Junction on fire at one time. 63 square miles, that's more than Apache Junction, all in a week burning up at that rate. It would be very difficult for any city to deal with something like this, and it has been for LA right now.
As another statement, I hope the homes that they rebuild this time, it's 100% mandatory that they're built with fire retardant, fireproof roofs, steel roofs, vents with, screens that, spark arrestor type screens, and they can build those houses a lot better than what they do. And, this isn't the first time that whole area is burnt. It burnt back in '61 extraordinarily bad. It seems like, every 50-plus years they get wicked bad fires, and obviously this one's been the worst, but heart goes out to all those people. It's just absolutely tragic.
Yes. That's all I have for tonight.
I'm still gonna write for that registration, you know that.
Okay. You gonna write the ticket?
Yep,
Okay.
it's in Longview.
Legit.
All right. I'll adjourn this meeting. And we got